The conference chamber aboard the Galactic Medical Relief Council station hummed with tension. Holographic displays flickered across the curved walls, each showing another world consumed by death. Ambassador Velktarn stood before the assembled representatives, his 6 limbs trembling with exhaustion. Purple lesions covered his pale blue skin, the early stages of the plague that was killing his people. 3 million dead in the first week, Velktarn said, his translator rendering his clicking speech into galactic standard. 10 million more infected. Our doctors cannot stop it. Our scientists cannot understand it. This weapon, this biological horror, the Krath unleashed. It spreads faster than we can count the dying. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They represented 40 different species, civilizations that had united under the principle of medical aid without borders. But this was different. This was war. Counselor Thex, a tall insectoid being with compound eyes, spoke first. Ambassador, we sympathize with your situation. However, deploying our hospital ships into an active war zone violates our charter of neutrality. The Krath Dominion might view our intervention as taking sides. My people are dying. Velktarn's voice cracked. Every hour we debate, another 1,000 souls perish. Children, elders, everyone. The Krath deployed this bioweapon to break our resistance. They want our worlds. They are willing to genocide us to claim them. Another counselor, this one resembling a floating jellyfish in a containment suit, added in a wet, burbling voice. Our nearest hospital fleet is 6 months away. Even if we authorized immediate departure, which would require a full council vote taking weeks, your people would be. The creature trailed off, but everyone understood. The Velik would be extinct before help arrived. Velktarn's legs buckled. He caught himself on the podium. The lesions had spread to his chest now. He probably had days left. Then I am wasting my time here. I will send out broader requests. Perhaps some species still remembers what it means to help those who are dying. He turned to leave, his movements slow and pained. The council watched him go in silence, their guilt heavy in the air, but their protocols heavier still. Back in his temporary quarters, Velktarn activated the quantum communicator. His assistant, Velksha, appeared on the screen, her young face already showing the purple marks of infection. Behind her, the medical facility was chaos. People lying in corridors. Doctors moving between patients with empty injection devices, having run out of pain medication days ago. Any response, Ambassador? She asked, hope dying in her eyes. The council refuses. 6 months, they said. We have perhaps 6 weeks before the last of us succumbs. Velktarn sat heavily. 1. Dooner. 1. Send the distress call to all known spacefaring species. Mark it as urgent medical emergency. Include everything. Population counts, infection rates, sample analysis of the bioweapon. Perhaps someone, anyone, will answer. I will send it immediately, Ambassador. Velksha paused. There are new species in the database. The survey ships made first contact with several civilizations in the past year. Should I include them? Everyone. Send it to everyone. What do we have to lose? The message went out across the galaxy, traveling through quantum relays, reaching thousands of worlds. Most species read it and did nothing. Some sent condolences. A few shipped supplies that would take months to arrive. The message reached the edge of explored space and continued outward, touching civilizations barely known to the galactic community. On Earth, in the United Nations Space Command headquarters in Geneva, Admiral Sarah Chen received the distress call at 0300 hours. She was already awake, reviewing deployment schedules for the Rapid Response Medical Fleet. At 53, Chen had spent 30 years in the service, rising from combat medic to fleet commander. Her silver hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her dark eyes scanned the data with practiced efficiency. "Get me Dr. Webb," she said to her aide, "and wake up the other fleet commanders. Full briefing in 20 minutes." Dr. Marcus Webb arrived in the conference room looking rumpled, his brown hair sticking up at odd angles. At 41, he was one of the youngest chief medical officers in fleet history, brilliant and dedicated to the point of obsession. He pulled up the Velic data on his tablet as he walked. "Bioweapon, definitely engineered," he muttered, scrolling through the analysis. "Attacks the respiratory system first, then spreads to circulatory. Mortality rate near 100% without treatment. This is nasty stuff, Admiral." "Can we treat it?" Chen asked. "Given time and samples?" "Probably. Our medical labs are the best in known space. But we would need to get there. Establish containment protocols. Begin research while treating patients." Webb looked up. "This would require full deployment of the medical fleet. We are talking about billions of infected individuals." Captain Rodriguez, commander of the UES Nightingale, leaned forward. "Admiral, the Galactic Medical Relief Council already refused their request. If we deploy, we might be stepping into a political situation. The Krath Dominion is a recognized sovereign power. They might view our intervention as hostile." Chen's expression hardened. "The Krath deployed a bioweapon against a civilian population. That violates every treaty and convention in the book. If the Council wants to hide behind neutrality and let an entire species die, that is their choice. But Earth did not build this fleet to watch from the sidelines. Travel time is 3 days via our new FTL drives," Captain Okonkwo of the UES Asclepius added, pulling up a star chart. "We can be there before the week ends. The Velic homeworld is here, in the Tertian Arm. No major trade routes, relatively isolated. The Krath probably chose them for that reason. Easy target. Far from help. Begin preparation for immediate deployment," Chen ordered. "All 3 ships, full medical staff, maximum supply loads. Dr. Webb, I want every specialist we have. Epidemiologists, trauma surgeons, biochemists, everyone. We will need to hit the ground running." "What about the Krath fleet?" Rodriguez asked. "Intelligence reports show at least 15 warships in the Velic system. If they do not want us there, this could get complicated." Chen stood, her hands flat on the table. "The Hippocrates, Nightingale, and Asclepius are fully capable vessels. We have weapons, shields, and some of the best crews in the fleet. Our primary mission is medical. But we will not allow anyone to stop us from completing that mission. Make that clear to all personnel during the briefing." Webb watched the Admiral with curiosity. "You think they will try to stop us?" "I think," Chen said carefully, "that we are about to teach the galaxy what human medical doctrine really means. We do not just treat the wounded. We make sure they stay safe while we do it. Now get moving. We launch in 6 hours." The news reached Ambassador Velk Tarn 3 hours later. He was in the medical facility, having refused to stay in his quarters while his people suffered. Velk Shah found him helping to carry supplies, his movements slow but determined. "Ambassador, we received a response." Velk Tarn's hearts quickened. "What did they say?" "They are sending their medical fleet immediately. 3 ships. They will arrive in 3 standard days." Tears formed in Velk Shah's large eyes. "We are saved. Help is coming." The ambassador closed his eyes, relief flooding through him. 3 days. They could last 3 days. He activated the general broadcast. His voice carried to every settlement, every refugee camp, every hospital on the planet. "My people, hold on. Help is coming. The humans are sending medical ships. 3 days. Just hold on for 3 days." Across the planet, the Velic wept with hope. Children asked their parents who the humans were. Doctors worked with renewed energy, trying to keep their patients alive just a little longer. In orbit, the Krath ships monitored the transmissions but did nothing. Medical ships posed no threat to their plans. 3 days later, the Velic sensors detected the FTL signatures. 3 massive vessels dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Celebrations erupted across the planet. Ships were sent to guide the newcomers in. News broadcasts showed images of similar vessels from other species. White hulls, marked with medical symbols. Unarmed and graceful. But as the sensor data refined, the celebrations faltered. Someone in the orbital tracking station made a mistake, surely. They recalibrated and scanned again. The human ships were not white. They were dark, gray, angular, bristling with what could only be weapons arrays. Each vessel was over a kilometer long, massive, and heavily armored. Point defense turrets dotted their hulls. Launch bays showed rows of combat shuttles. These were not hospital ships. These were warships. Ambassador Velk Tarn stared at the display screen in confusion and growing horror. What is this? They sent military vessels? But we asked for medical aid. The communication channel opened. A human woman appeared, wearing a dark blue uniform with rank insignia on her shoulders. Her expression was calm and professional. This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command, commanding the Rapid Response Medical Fleet. We received your distress call. Ambassador Velk Tarn. The UES Hippocrates, Nightingale, and Asclepius are standing by to begin medical operations. We are ready to help. Ready. Velk Tarn looked at the warships on his screen, then at the Admiral's face. His voice shook with confusion and anger and desperate hope, all mixed together. Admiral Chen, we requested medical aid. You sent warships. Chen's expression did not change. Ambassador, these are our hospital ships. We are here to save your people. May we begin? The silence that followed Admiral Chen's statement stretched uncomfortably long. Ambassador Velk Tarn stared at the communication screen, trying to process what he was seeing. Behind him, his staff clustered together, their clicking speech rising in confused discussion. On the view screen, the 3 human warships held position at the system's edge, their dark hulls reflecting the distant star's light. Admiral Chen, Velk Tarn began carefully. Perhaps there was a translation error. We sent a medical distress call. Your vessels appear to be military warships. We are grateful for any assistance. But we need doctors, medicine, medical equipment. We need help fighting a plague, not fighting a war. Chen's face remained neutral, though something that might have been amusement flickered in her eyes. Ambassador, I understand your confusion. I would like to invite you and your medical leadership aboard the Hippocrates. It would be easier to explain in person. We can send a shuttle to retrieve you within the hour. Acts 11. Velk Tarn exchanged glances with his staff. Protocol Officer Velk Moore clicked nervously. Ambassador, this could be a trap. We know nothing of these humans. They arrive in warships, claiming to be medical vessels. This makes no sense. Our people are dying, Velk Tarn replied quietly. If there is even a chance they can help, I must take it. Besides, if they wanted to harm us, they could simply do nothing and let the plague finish us. Admiral, I accept your invitation. I will bring our Chief Medical Coordinator, Velk Rin, and 2 security personnel. Excellent. The shuttle will dock at your orbital station in 45 minutes. Fair warning, Ambassador, our shuttle is also armed. Try not to let that alarm your people too much. Chen's expression softened slightly. We really are here to help. I promise. You will understand once you see our facilities. The communication ended. Velk Tarn moved quickly, gathering the others. Chief Medical Coordinator Velk Rin was working in the medical bay, her white coat stained with various colored fluids from treating dozens of different cases. She was older than Velk Tarn, her skin showing the gray patterns of age beneath the purple lesions of infection. A tour of a warship? She asked, incredulous. We should be preparing to receive medical supplies, not satisfying curiosity. Something about this does not make sense, Velktarn said. The Admiral was too confident, too calm. She genuinely believes those warships are medical vessels. We need to understand what the humans think they are providing. The human shuttle arrived precisely on time. It was, as promised, armed with what appeared to be defensive weapons mounted on its hull. But it also bore a large red cross symbol on its side, the universal medical marker used by dozens of species. The combination was jarring. The pilot who greeted them was a young woman in a dark blue uniform, a sidearm holstered at her hip. Ambassador Velktarn? I'm Lieutenant Parks. Welcome aboard. It's a short flight to the Hippocrates. Please, make yourselves comfortable. The interior of the shuttle was clean and efficient, with medical equipment secured along one wall and seats designed for various body types along the other. Velktarn noticed restraints that could secure wounded passengers and an automated medical scanner built into the ceiling. This shuttle serves dual purpose, Lieutenant Parks explained, noticing their attention. Combat medical extraction and transport. We can carry 12 wounded or 30 passengers. The medical gear auto-deploys if we detect injuries. You fight and heal with the same vessels? Velkrin asked, her translator struggling to convey her confusion. Yes, ma'am. It's more efficient that way. The flight took only minutes. As they approached the Hippocrates, its true scale became apparent. The ship was massive, nearly 1,500 meters long, with a hull that combined sleek curves with angular armor plating. Weapons turrets tracked their approach automatically, and Lieutenant Parks had to transmit 3 separate clearance codes before they were allowed into the hangar bay. The hangar itself was enormous. Combat shuttles lined one wall, medical transports the other. Personnel moved with purpose, some in military uniforms, others in medical scrubs, and many in a combination of both. A sign on the wall read, Primary Medical Deployment Bay. Unauthorized personnel will be sedated and removed. Admiral Chen waited for them at the bay entrance, accompanied by a tired-looking man in a white coat over a military uniform. Ambassador, welcome to the Hippocrates. This is Dr. Marcus Webb, our Chief Medical Officer. He will be leading the medical response to your crisis. Dr. Webb stepped forward, his scanner already in hand. Ambassador, with your permission, I would like to take quick readings. The preliminary data we received about the bioweapon was incomplete. Velktarn extended his upper limbs. Webb's scanner hummed, collecting data. The doctor's frown deepened as he read the results. Advanced stage, but you probably know that. The lesions indicate circulatory compromise. You have maybe 4 days left without treatment. He looked up. We will start treatment protocols immediately after this tour. I am not letting you die while you are aboard my ship. Your ship? Velkrin interjected. I thought this was a warship commanded by the Admiral. It is, Webb replied simply. I command the medical operations. Chen commands the military operations. Same ship. 2 command structures that work together. That makes no sense, Velkmore muttered in their own language. Chen smiled slightly. I suspect we hear that a lot. Come, let me show you what we actually brought to help your people. They walked through corridors that seemed like a contradiction. Military bulkheads reinforced every section, but medical supply caches were built into the walls. Armed soldiers passed, nurses pushing equipment carts. They descended several decks and entered through heavy blast doors that required 3 different security clearances. The doors opened into something that took Velktarn's breath away. It was a hospital. A complete, full-scale hospital built into the heart of the warship. Rows of beds stretched as far as he could see, hundreds of them, all equipped with advanced medical monitoring systems. Surgical theaters lined the walls, their transparent barriers showing the sophisticated equipment inside. Laboratories hummed with activity. An entire wing was dedicated to isolation and quarantine, with environmental controls that could be adjusted for any species' needs. Medical personnel moved through the space with practiced efficiency. Some tended to practice patients, mannequins used for training. Others ran diagnostics on equipment. A team in hazmat suits conducted drills in one of the isolation chambers. "We can accommodate 3,000 patients," Dr. Webb explained, walking them through the facility. "We have 60 surgical theaters, 20 research laboratories, full diagnostic capabilities, and manufacturing facilities to produce custom medications. Each of my staff is cross-trained in multiple specialties. We can treat up to 40 different known species, and we learn new ones quickly." Velkrin touched one of the beds reverently. "This is incredible. But why is it inside a warship? Why not build dedicated hospital ships?" Chen answered this time. "Because during our wars, we learned a hard lesson. Medical facilities became targets. Enemies would deliberately strike hospital ships, civilian medical centers. Anywhere, we tried to help our wounded. We lost thousands of doctors, nurses, and patients. So we changed our doctrine." She gestured to the walls around them. "These walls are armored with the same plating as our battleships. This medical bay can survive direct hits from most known weapons. We have shields, point defense systems, and enough firepower to defend ourselves. We will not allow anyone to harm our patients or our medical personnel. But that violates medical neutrality," Velkmore protested. "Hospital ships are supposed to be protected by conventions, treaties. You are not allowed to arm them." Webb laughed bitterly. "Protected by conventions? Ambassador, we sent unarmed hospital ships once. The enemy did not care about conventions. They blew them out of space. After the third one was destroyed, we stopped pretending that being unarmed made us safe. Now we can defend our patients while we heal them." They continued the tour. Velktarn saw storage bays filled with medical supplies that could support operations for months. Manufacturing facilities that could produce vaccines, antibiotics, and specialized drugs on demand. A genetics laboratory where scientists were already analyzing the bioweapon data the Velik had provided. "We started working on treatment protocols during the 3-day journey here," Webb explained, showing them the lab. "Our preliminary analysis suggests we can synthesize an effective treatment within 48 hours. Mass production will take another day. In 72 hours, we can begin widespread distribution." 72 hours? Velkrin's voice cracked with emotion. "Our fastest researchers estimated 6 months to develop a treatment, if they survived long enough to complete it. We have advantages," Webb said. "Advanced AI assist systems, a database of thousands of bioweapons from human history, and experience fighting biological warfare. This is not our first plague, Ambassador. It will not be our last." They entered a conference room, and Chen pulled up tactical displays. "Here is our deployment plan. The Hippocrates will maintain orbit and serve as the primary treatment facility. We will begin bringing critical patients up immediately. The Nightingale will establish position over your northern continent, the Asclepius over the southern. Each ship will send down medical teams to set up ground-based treatment centers." "Ground teams?" Velktarn asked. 200 medical personnel per ship, supported by 100 combat troops." Chen zoomed in on the map. "The combat troops will establish secure perimeters around each medical facility. We cannot have chaos interrupting treatment. Our Marines are trained in crowd control, security operations, and medical support. They will also help distribute supplies and maintain order." Velkmore looked distressed. "You are planning a military occupation under the guise of medical aid?" Chen's eyes flashed with something dangerous. "We are planning to save your people. The security forces are there to protect our medical teams and your patients. If you prefer we leave and let your species die, say so now. Otherwise, accept that we do things our way. And our way has kept more people alive than any other medical fleet in known space." The room fell silent. Velktarn looked at his companions, then at the Admiral. then at the vast medical facility visible through the conference room window. People were dying. Every moment they debated, more deaths occurred. "What do you need from us?" he asked quietly. Webb pulled up a list. "Landing zones for our facilities. Authority to operate freely without bureaucratic delays. Access to your medical records and patient data. Cooperation from your remaining doctors and scientists. And time. Give us 3 days, and we will turn this around." "You have everything you need," Velktarn said. "Save my people. That is all that matters." Chen nodded. "We will. Dr. Webb, begin deployment operations. I want the first medical teams planetside within 2 hours. Ambassador, we are starting your treatment now. You are no good to anyone dead." As if on cue, a nurse appeared with a medical kit. Velk watched in fascination as they administered an injection to the ambassador. The purple lesions already beginning to fade slightly within minutes. "That is just the first dose," Webb explained. "You will need treatment every 6 hours for the next week. But you will survive. We all will." Velktarn watched through the window as human personnel moved with purpose, preparing shuttles for deployment, loading medical equipment, checking weapons on both soldiers and medical transports. It was the strangest combination he had ever seen. Healers who carried guns, hospitals built inside warships, doctors who worked alongside warriors as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "I do not understand you," he said quietly, "but I am grateful you came." Chen smiled for the first time since they had met. "Understanding can come later. Right now, we have work to do." The first human medical teams landed on the Velik homeworld 18 hours after arrival. Ambassador Velktarn watched from the Hippocrates observation deck as shuttles descended like silver angels through the atmosphere. Each one carried doctors, nurses, medical equipment, and yes, armed soldiers. The combination still made him uncomfortable, but the treatment Webb had given him was working. The lesions on his skin had stopped spreading. For the first time in weeks, he felt hope. "Shuttle Group 7 is approaching the primary landing zone now," a human communications officer reported. "They should be establishing the first treatment center within the hour." 1. Dr. Webb stood beside Velktarn, monitoring displays that showed patient data streaming up from the surface. "We are already seeing critical cases in the northern continent. Velk, your doctors did good work keeping people alive this long with limited resources. When this is over, I want to compare notes on your triage protocols." Velk, also recovering from her first treatment dose, clicked her appreciation. "Our doctors are exhausted but determined. Your arrival has given them renewed strength. They work now, knowing they are not alone." On the main display, Shuttle Group 7 appeared on sensors. 7 medical transports flying in formation, their hulls marked with bright red crosses. They carried supplies that would establish a treatment center capable of handling 5,000 patients. The lead shuttle also carried a team of epidemiologists who would coordinate with local Velik doctors. Velktarn watched the peaceful scene with satisfaction. This was what medical aid should look like. Ships carrying healing, not weapons. He began to wonder if the humans' militaristic approach was really necessary after all. Then the Krath warships appeared on sensors. 5 vessels dropped out of FTL directly between the shuttles and the planet's surface. They were smaller than the human ships, but sleek and predatory. Their weapons powered up immediately, targeting systems locking onto the medical shuttles. "Hostile vessels have engaged weapons," the communications officer said, her voice suddenly tight with tension. "Shuttles are evading." Admiral Chen appeared on the bridge within seconds, her uniform jacket still being fastened. "Status? 5 Krath destroyers. They are blocking the shuttle approach vector. Shuttles are breaking formation and attempting to evade." On the view screen, chaos erupted. The medical shuttles scattered, their pilots executing emergency maneuvers. Velktarn's hearts raced. The shuttles were unarmed transports, carrying doctors and patients being evacuated from the surface. They had no way to defend themselves. "This is Krath warship Vengeance," a harsh voice crackled over the communications channel. "Human vessels, you are interfering in Krath Dominion military operations. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Chen's expression hardened into something cold and dangerous. "Communications. Open a channel. Full broadcast. I want everyone to hear this." The officer complied. Chen spoke clearly and slowly. "Krath warship Vengeance. This is Fleet Admiral Chen of the United Earth Space Command. We are conducting humanitarian medical operations. The shuttles you are threatening carry medical personnel and patients. Stand down immediately. Don't. We do not recognize your authority here, human. This system is under Krath jurisdiction. Your interference is an act of war. We are providing medical aid to a dying population. That is not an act of war. Threatening medical personnel, however, violates every convention and treaty in the galaxy. Stand down." The Krath response was to fire. Energy beams lanced through space. 3 of them missed the scattering shuttles. 4 did not. Velktarn watched in horror as explosions blossomed in the void. Debris scattered, and the life signs indicators for those shuttles went dark. 47 people, doctors, nurses, medics, and 12 Velic patients being transported for intensive care. Gone in seconds. Dr. Webb's face went pale. "No. No. 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 Shuttle 5 was carrying our best infectious disease team. Shuttle 3 had patients we specifically selected for experimental treatment. They were children." His hands gripped the railing so hard his knuckles went white. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the bridge like a blade made of ice. "Battle stations. Full combat alert. Tactical. Target those Krath vessels. Point defense systems protect the remaining shuttles. Launch combat space patrol. Weapons free." "Admiral," Velktarn said desperately, "you cannot start a war over this. It is tragic. But they fired on medical personnel." Chen turned to face him, and he stepped back from the fury in her eyes. "They killed doctors who were trying to save lives. They killed patients who were already dying. There are rules, Ambassador. Even in war, there are lines you do not cross. They crossed it." End quote. The Hippocrates transformed before Velktarn's eyes. Weapons ports that he had barely noticed before opened across the hull. Turrets swiveled into position. The ship that had seemed like a mobile hospital revealed its true nature. It was a predator, and it had been provoked. "Krath warship Vengeance, this is your final warning," Chen said, her voice absolutely level. "You have fired on medical personnel engaged in humanitarian operations. You have violated medical neutrality. You have murdered unarmed doctors and patients. You are hereby classified as war criminals. Surrender immediately or face immediate military response." The Krath commander laughed. "You are 3 ships. We have 15 more in this system. You cannot win this fight. Human, withdraw now, or share the fate of your medical teams." "Tactical," Chen said calmly. "Remove them. What happened next would be analyzed by military academies across the galaxy for decades." The Hippocrates moved with a grace that should have been impossible for a vessel its size. Its weapons fired with devastating precision. The first Krath destroyer exploded before its shields could fully power up. The second managed to return fire, but the human ship's shields absorbed the attack easily. The third tried to flee and was caught by a missile barrage that tore it apart. The remaining 2 Krath ships attempted to use the planet as cover, diving into high orbit. The Nightingale and Asclepius, which had been positioning themselves over the continents, intercepted them. The battle lasted less than 4 minutes. When it ended, 5 Krath destroyers were debris clouds, and the human medical fleet had suffered minor shield damage. The surviving medical shuttles continued their descent. They landed at the designated zones. deployed their cargo, and immediately returned to orbit for more supplies. The human medical personnel on the surface established their treatment centers with armed perimeter guards. Marines in full combat gear stood watch while doctors treated patients. Velk Tarn found Dr. Webb in the medical bay, standing in front of a wall display that showed photos and names, 47 people. The dead from the destroyed shuttles. Webb's hand traced over the images of two young doctors, both smiling in their photographs. They graduated top of their class, Webb said quietly. Dr. Sarah Kimani wanted to specialize in xenopathology. Dr. James Torres was writing a paper on cross-species immune response. They were brilliant. They were healers. And they are dead because the Kroth did not respect the sanctity of medical personnel. I am sorry, Velk Tarn said, the words feeling insufficient. This is a tragedy. But Admiral Chen's response, was it necessary? You destroyed 5 warships. You killed their crews. Webb turned to face him, and Velk Tarn saw tears on the doctor's face. But behind the tears was something harder. Something that reminded him these humans were a warrior species. Yes, Webb said. It was necessary. Do you know what happens if we let that attack go unanswered? Every hostile force in the galaxy learns that they can fire on human medical teams without consequence. Every future mission becomes more dangerous. More doctors die. More patients die. We cannot allow that. But you are doctors, healers. You take oaths to do no harm. We do. And we take those oaths very seriously. Webb gestured to the medical bay around them, where human personnel worked frantically to save Velk patients. But we also swear to protect those in our care. All of them. Our patients. Yes. But also our fellow medical personnel. We will not stand by and watch healers be murdered for trying to help people. On the planet's surface, the medical centers were already operational. Human doctors worked alongside Velk medical staff, treating patients with the synthesized medication. The mortality rate began to drop within hours. In the critical care units aboard the Hippocrates, Velk patients who had been days from death began to stabilize. But the battle had consequences. News of the engagement spread quickly through the Krath Dominion. Their military command viewed the destruction of 5 warships as an unacceptable insult. More importantly, they viewed the human presence as a threat to their plans. The Velk were supposed to be weakened by the plague, easy to conquer. Human intervention was ruining everything. 3 days after the first battle, Velk Tarn was in a treatment planning meeting when alarms sounded throughout the ship. Admiral Chen's voice came over the ship-wide communications. All hands, battle stations, multiple hostile contacts inbound. This is not a drill. The tactical display in the conference room activated automatically. Velk Tarn stared at the flood of red icons appearing on the screen. Krath warships, dozens of them, emerging from FTL at the system's edge. How many? Velkrin asked, her voice shaking. A human tactical officer consulted her displays. 37 confirmed contacts. Destroyer and cruiser class. They are forming an attack formation and advancing on our position. Dr. Webb stood up slowly. They are coming for us. They want to destroy the medical fleet and finish their genocide. They. Velk Tarn felt his newly healed body go cold. You must retreat. Your ships cannot fight that many. You have done so much already. Please, save yourselves. Webb looked at him with an expression that was somehow both sad and determined. Ambassador, we have 12,000 Velk patients currently receiving treatment aboard our ships. 4 billion more on the planet's surface depending on us to cure this plague. We are not leaving. But you will die. Maybe, Webb admitted. But we will die keeping our patients safe. That is the job. Admiral Chen's voice cut through their discussion. Dr. Webb to the bridge. We need to coordinate evacuation of non-critical patients to secure areas of the ship. Ambassador Velk Tarn, I recommend you go to the Central Medical Bay. It is the most heavily armored section of the ship. Velk Tarn followed Webb to the bridge, unable to just hide while these humans prepared to die defending his people. On the bridge, Chen stood at the center of organized chaos. Officers called out reports, tactical displays showed the approaching Krath fleet, and through it all, the Admiral maintained perfect calm. Status of ground teams? She asked. All medical personnel are inside established perimeters, an officer reported. Marine guards report they can hold their positions. The treatment centers have been fortified. Good. Signal the Nightingale and Asclepius. We form a defensive triangle above the planet. Point defense systems at maximum. I want every missile loaded, every gun ready. And somebody send a message back to Earth. If we do not survive this, they need to know what happened here. Velk Tarn stepped forward. Admiral, please, you can evacuate your people. We can hold the treatment centers until you return with reinforcements. Chen looked at him with something like pity. Ambassador, we are the reinforcements. Earth is 3 days away at FTL speeds. By the time another fleet arrived, your people would be dead, and the Krath would be in complete control. We cannot hold against 37 ships. We can try. The Krath fleet continued its advance, growing larger on the displays with each passing minute. In the medical bay, doctors continued their work, aware that battle was coming but refusing to abandon their patients. In the fortified treatment centers on the planet's surface, human medical personnel stood alongside Velic doctors, watching the sky and hoping. Velk Tarn understood then what made the humans different. It was not just their weapons or their advanced technology. It was their absolute refusal to abandon those they had sworn to protect. They would die rather than leave. It was insane. It was admirable. It was utterly, completely human. The Krath fleet will be in weapons range in 20 minutes, the tactical officer reported. Admiral Chen nodded. Then we have 20 minutes to prepare. All hands, this is the Admiral. We came here to save lives. We have saved thousands already. We will continue to save them, no matter what. The Krath think they can scare us away by bringing more guns. Show them what happens when they threaten our patients. Battle stations. We fight. In the medical bay, Dr. Webb looked at the photo wall of the 47 dead. Then he returned to his work, adjusting a patient's medication, checking vital signs, preparing for surgery. If these were his last hours, he would spend them healing. The Krath fleet advanced, confident in their overwhelming numbers. They had no idea what they were really facing. Not just 3 warships, but the absolute determination of humans who had sworn an oath, and who would die before breaking it. The analysis came at the worst possible time. Dr. Marcus Webb stood in the genetics laboratory aboard the Hippocrates, staring at results that made his blood run cold. Around him, the ship trembled occasionally as the Krath fleet moved into attack positions. They had maybe 15 minutes before the shooting started. But what he was looking at changed everything. This cannot be right, Dr. Yuki Tanaka said, rechecking her data for the 3rd time. She was the lead xenobiologist, a small woman with sharp eyes and sharper intelligence. Run it again. Run it again. The computer complied, analyzing the bioweapon sample they had taken from infected Velic patients. The results came back identical. Webb felt his hands clench into fists. It is right. The bioweapon is still mutating. Not naturally. Someone is actively modifying it. He pulled up comparative analysis. Look at these samples. This one from 3 weeks ago. This one from last week. This one from yesterday. Each version is slightly different. The Krath are refining their weapon, while their victims die. Dr. Tanaka's face went pale. That means even if we cure the current version, they can just deploy an updated strain. We would be fighting an endless battle. Where is it being modified? Webb demanded. This kind of work requires a sophisticated laboratory, equipment, scientists, secure facilities. Where? The computer searched through intelligence databases, cross-referencing Krath industrial facilities with biological research capabilities. A result appeared almost immediately. Garan 4, a Krath industrial world in their home territory. The facility was listed as a pharmaceutical manufacturing plant, but energy readings and supply shipments told a different story. Webb activated his communicator. Webb to Admiral Chen. We have a situation. On the bridge, Admiral Chen was coordinating defensive positions when Webb's message came through. Doctor, we are about to be in a fight for our lives. Can this wait? No, Admiral, it cannot. The bioweapon is being actively modified. There is a laboratory on Garan 4 that is continuing to develop new strains. Even if we save the Velic, the Krath can just deploy an updated version. We have to destroy that facility. The bridge went quiet. Chen looked at the tactical display showing 37 Krath warships approaching, then at the information Webb was sending. You are talking about a strike deep into Krath territory. An offensive military operation. That is not what this fleet was designed for. I am talking about cutting out the cancer at its source. Webb said firmly. The disease is not just in the patients, Admiral. It is in that laboratory. As long as it exists, this genocide continues. We need to destroy it. Admiral Chen was silent for a long moment. Then she made the decision that would define the rest of the crisis. Agreed. But first, we deal with this fleet. We cannot do anything if we are debris. Webb. Prepare a full briefing on the facility. If we survive the next hour, we will figure out how to stop this permanently. The Krath fleet opened fire at maximum range. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the opposing forces. The 3 human ships returned fire immediately, their point defense systems creating a web of protective fire. The battle that followed was brutal and one-sided, but not in the direction the Krath had expected. The human ships moved like dancers, their formation tight and coordinated. Decades of combat experience had taught human naval tactics, and the commanders executed them perfectly. The Hippocrates absorbed fire meant for the smaller Nightingale. The Asclepius positioned itself to create crossfire opportunities. Their weapons fire was devastatingly accurate. Each shot, precisely calculated. But 37 against 3 were terrible odds. The human shields began to fail under sustained bombardment. Hull breaches appeared on the Nightingale. The Asclepius lost 2 weapons turrets. The Hippocrates took a direct hit to its port side, and Velktarn felt the entire ship shake. Hull breach. Deck 7. Section 12. Damage control reported. Medical bay is intact, but we have lost environmental control in adjacent corridors. In the medical bay, Dr. Webb continued operating on a Velic patient while the ship shook around him. Someone want to stop the dancing? I am trying to work here. A nurse steadied his instruments. The patient is stable. Should we evacuate this section? Evacuate to where? Webb asked, making a careful incision. We are in space. We stay, we work, and we hope the Admiral is as good as everyone says she is. On the bridge, Admiral Chen was making rapid calculations. They could not win through firepower alone, but they might not have to. Tactical. Calculate jump coordinates. I want micro jumps, 5-second intervals. Pattern Theta 7. PPA. Ma'am, that is a high-risk maneuver. Calculated anyway. The Hippocrates vanished from its position and reappeared 5,000 kilometers away, behind the Krath formation. The Krath ships, having been firing at where the human ship had been, suddenly found themselves exposed. The Hippocrates opened fire on their rear vessels, destroying 3 before they could react. Then it jumped again. The Nightingale and Asclepius copied the maneuver, creating chaos in the Krath formation. Ships collided, trying to track their opponents. Friendly fire incidents increased as Krath vessels fired at ghost images. The human ships appeared, fired devastating volleys, and vanished before effective return fire could land. Velktarn watched in awe from the bridge. "How are you doing this? Those calculations should take minutes." Don't. Don't. Our AI combat assistants handle the mathematics," an officer explained. "Human commanders make the tactical decisions. It is a partnership. The computer calculates, we decide, and together, we survive." The battle continued for 2 hours. Slowly, the numbers shifted. 37 became 30, then 25, then 20. The human ships were battered, their shields failing, their hulls scarred. But they were still fighting. The Krath began to realize they were losing. "Krath fleet is breaking formation," Tactical reported. "They are retreating." "Pursue?" the weapons officer asked. "Negative," Chen said. "Let them go. We have bigger problems to solve." As the surviving Krath ships jumped to FTL, Chen pulled up the data on Garon 4. The facility there was heavily defended. Orbital weapons platforms, a defensive fleet. Ground-based anti-aircraft systems. It was designed to withstand attack. But it was not designed to withstand what Chen was planning. She called a command meeting. The other ship captains appeared via hologram, both looking exhausted but determined. Dr. Webb joined from the medical bay, still in his surgical gown. "We destroyed or drove off the immediate threat," Chen began. "But Dr. Webb has confirmed that the bioweapon is being actively developed at a facility on Garon 4. As long as that facility exists, the Velic genocide continues. We need to destroy it." Captain Rodriguez of the Nightingale frowned. "Admiral, that is deep in Krath space. We would be conducting an offensive military strike on a sovereign world. The political ramifications would be enormous." "I am aware," Chen replied. "But consider the alternative. We save the Velic today, and in 6 months, the Krath deploy an updated bioweapon, or they use it on another species. How many times do we let them commit genocide before we stop them permanently? The Galactic Medical Relief Council will condemn this," Captain Okonkwo of the Asclepius added. "They will say we violated medical neutrality by conducting offensive operations." Dr. Webb spoke up. "With respect to the Council, they refuse to help at all. We are the ones here, watching people die. We are the ones with the capability to stop it. I say we stop it." Seventh, Velktarn, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. "Admiral Chen, if you do this, you do it for all species the Krath might target, not just my people. You would be acting to prevent future genocides. That is a worthy goal, but it is also an act of war. It is surgery," Webb corrected. "You cut out the diseased tissue before it spreads. That facility is the disease. We are just cutting it out." Chen made her decision. "We go. All 3 ships. We jump into Garon 4 orbit, neutralize defenses, destroy the facility, and jump out. Fast and surgical. Prepare for departure in 6 hours. We need repairs done, and all critical patients stabilized." The preparation was frantic. Engineers worked around the clock to fix hull breaches and restore shields. Medical teams moved critical patients to the most protected areas of the ships. Intelligence officers analyzed every piece of data they had on Garon 4's defenses. Dr. Webb led a team preparing for the strike itself. "We need to do more than destroy the facility. We need the research data. If they have been developing bioweapons, we need to know what else they have planned." "A retrieval team?" Chen asked. "That increases risk significantly." "It is necessary. We go in, we take their data, we burn the place down. Otherwise, they just rebuild somewhere else." Chen authorized it. A team of Marines trained in hazardous materials operations would accompany the strike force. Their mission: penetrate the facility, secure all research data, and destroy everything else. The Galactic Medical Relief Council got wind of the plan 3 hours before launch. Counselor Thex sent an urgent communication, appearing on Chen's screen with a furious expression. Admiral Chen, we have received intelligence that you plan to attack a civilian pharmaceutical facility on Garon 4. This is absolutely unacceptable. You are violating every principle of medical neutrality. That civilian facility is producing weapons of genocide, Chen replied coldly. We have proof. Proof that should be presented to proper authorities. Not used to justify military aggression. Admiral, if you proceed with this attack, the Council will formally condemn your actions. Earth's standing in the galactic community will be severely damaged. Counselor, with respect, I do not care about standing. I care about stopping mass murder. That facility has killed billions of Velic. It will kill billions more unless it is destroyed. If the Council wants to condemn that, go ahead. History will judge who was right. She ended the communication. Around her, the bridge crew worked with grim determination. They knew the stakes. They knew the risks. They did it anyway. 6 hours after the battle, the 3 human ships jumped to FTL, heading deep into Krath territory. Velk Tarn and a small delegation of Velic observers joined them, insisting on witnessing what the humans did in their name. The journey took 18 hours. When they emerged above Garon 4, alarms immediately sounded. The Krath had been expecting them. Defense platforms opened fire instantly. A dozen Krath warships moved to intercept. All ships, engage, Chen ordered. Marines, you have 15 minutes from breach to extraction. Make them count. The battle was short and vicious. The human ships had the element of surprise and superior tactics. Orbital platforms were destroyed or disabled. The defending warships were outmatched. Within 10 minutes, the human fleet had orbital superiority. Marine dropships launched, descending through the atmosphere toward the bioweapon facility. Krath ground forces met them with heavy resistance. But human Marines were trained for exactly this kind of operation. They fought through defensive lines, placed explosive charges, and secured the research laboratories. Inside the facility, the Marines found horrors. Test subjects from a dozen different species, infected with various bioweapons, and left to die while scientists observed. Research notes detailing plans to deploy biological weapons against 6 different civilizations. Samples of dozens of different engineered plagues. Command. This is Lieutenant Hayes. The Marine team leader reported. We have secured the research data. You need to see this. They were planning attacks on multiple species. The Velic were just the first. The research data was transmitted up to the Hippocrates. Dr. Webb and his team began analyzing it immediately. What they found confirmed their worst fears. The Krath had an entire biological warfare program, with targets including several species that had never even interacted with the Krath Dominion. This is systematic, Webb said, horror in his voice. They were planning to conquer through disease, weaken populations with plagues, then move in for easy takeover. It is genocide as military doctrine. Marines, collect every sample, every piece of data, everything, Chen ordered. Then, burn it all. I want that facility reduced to ash. The Marines complied. They placed demolition charges throughout the facility, ensured all research materials were either secured or destroyed, and evacuated. As their dropships climbed back to orbit, the facility below erupted in flames. Secondary explosions suggested the Krath had been storing significant amounts of biological agents, all now being incinerated in the inferno. The human fleet jumped back to FTL before Krath reinforcements could arrive. They left behind a burning facility and a very clear message. Genocide would not be tolerated. Back at the Velic homeworld, the response was mixed. The Velic themselves were grateful. The humans had not only saved them, but had ensured the weapon that had nearly destroyed them could never be used again. But across the galaxy, the reaction was different. The Galactic Medical Relief Council issued a formal condemnation. Several species recalled their ambassadors from Earth, accusing humanity of warmongering. The Krath Dominion declared humanity a hostile power and vowed revenge. But there were other responses too. Quiet messages from species that had been on the Krath's target list, thanking the humans for saving them from an attack they had not even known was coming. Intelligence sharing from civilizations that suddenly realized the Krath were more dangerous than they had believed. In the Hippocrates medical bay, Dr. Webb looked at the secured research data, thousands of files detailing horrific experiments and genocidal plans. It made him sick. But it also vindicated the decision to act. "We saved more than just the Velic," he told Velktarn. "We saved every species the Krath had targeted. That has to count for something." "It does," the ambassador agreed. "But you have also made powerful enemies. The galaxy is divided on whether you are heroes or war criminals." Webb shrugged. "I can live with that. At least people are alive to debate it. That is more than we can say for the billions who would have died if we had done nothing." On the bridge, Admiral Chen received casualty reports from the Garon 4 operation. 4 Marines killed in action. 18 wounded. Several ships needed extensive repairs. It had been costly. But the alternative had been unthinkable. "Set course back to the Velic homeworld," she ordered. "We still have patients to treat and a plague to finish curing. The war can wait. Right now, we have lives to save." The fleet jumped back to FTL, carrying with them evidence of prevented genocides and the weight of controversial decisions. They had crossed a line, moving from defensive medical operations to offensive strikes. Whether that made them heroes or something else would be debated for years to come. But for the humans, the answer was simple. They had stopped mass murder. Everything else was just politics. The news came during a routine medical shift. Dr. Marcus Webb was checking on a young Velic patient, a child named Velk Lin, who had been one of the first critical cases brought aboard. The child was laughing now. The purple lesions completely healed, playing with a toy one of the nurses had given her. It was moments like this that reminded Webb why he had become a doctor. Then the alarm sounded. "All hands, battle stations." Admiral Chen's voice came over the ship-wide communications. Calm, but urgent. "Multiple hostile contacts inbound. This is not a drill." Webb finished securing Velklin's medical monitors and headed to the bridge. He arrived to find organized chaos. Officers calling out reports, while Chen stood at the center, her expression grim. "Status," Chen demanded. 53 Krath warships just dropped out of FTL at the system's edge, the tactical officer reported, her voice tight. "All capital class. Battleships, heavy cruisers, and carriers. They are launching fighters now. Estimated time to weapons range: 45 minutes. Webb felt his stomach drop. 53? That is their entire border fleet. They are not here for a skirmish, Captain Rodriguez said via hologram from the Nightingale. This is a revenge fleet. They want us dead, and they want to finish what they started with the Velic. Velktarn rushed onto the bridge, having heard the alarms from the medical bay. "How many ships?" "Too many," Chen said simply. She pulled up tactical displays, showing the 3 human ships positioned in orbit above the Velic homeworld. Below them, 4 billion Velic depended on the continued medical operations. Aboard the human ships, 12,000 Velic patients were receiving active treatment. They know we cannot run. Not with patients aboard. Not with ground teams still on the surface. They are counting on us to stand and die. "Then we evacuate," Velktarn said desperately. "Get your people and the critical patients onto shuttles. Escape while you can." "To where, Doctor?" Webb asked. "We have 12,000 patients, many on life support. The shuttles cannot carry them all. And even if they could, where would they go?" The Krath fleet would just hunt them down. On the tactical display, the Krath fleet advanced in a coordinated formation, their numbers overwhelming. 3 human ships against 53 Krath warships. The mathematics were brutally simple. Captain Okonkwo's face appeared on screen from the Asclepius. "Admiral, I have run every tactical simulation. We cannot win this fight. Our best-case scenario gives us maybe 30 minutes of combat before our shields fail completely. Then we fight for 30 minutes, Chen said. And then we fight for 30 more after that. Marines. I want every patient moved to the most protected areas of the ships. Medical personnel, prepare for combat conditions. We have taken hits before and kept operating. We will do it again." "Admiral," Velktarn said quietly, "you will die. All of you. For my people. That is too much to ask." Chen looked at him, and her expression softened slightly. "Ambassador, we are not dying for your people. We are living for them. There is a difference. Every minute we hold, that is another minute of treatment, another life saved. If we run, if we abandon our mission, then everything we have done here means nothing. The Krath win. Genocide wins. We cannot allow that." She turned to her communications officer. "Send a message back to Earth. Full tactical data. Everything we have learned about the Krath bioweapon program. Our medical protocols. Everything. If we do not make it, someone needs to continue this work." The message was transmitted, shooting across space via quantum relay. It would reach Earth in minutes, carrying the last words of 3 ships that refused to abandon their patients. Dr. Webb returned to the medical bay. His staff looked at him with fear and determination in their eyes. They knew what was coming. "Listen up," Webb said, his voice carrying across the bay. "We are about to be in a fight. A bad one. The ship is going to shake. Systems might fail. We might lose power, lose gravity, lose environmental controls. But we are not losing patience. You understand me? Whatever happens, we keep working. These people trusted us to save them. We do not break that trust. Not ever." A young nurse, barely out of medical school, raised her hand. "Dr. Webb, what if we do not survive this?" Webb looked at the rows of beds, the Velic patients recovering from a plague that had nearly extinguished their species. He thought of Velk Lin, the child who was laughing again. He thought of the 47 people killed in the first Krath attack. He thought of why he had joined the medical fleet in the first place. "Then we die doing the job we swore to do," he said simply. "But I would rather live doing it. So let us focus on that. Battle stations. Secure all equipment. Anyone not actively treating a patient, I want you in pressure suits. If we get hull breaches, we keep working." The Krath fleet entered weapons range. The first salvos lit up space with deadly energy. The 3 human ships returned fire immediately, their point defense systems creating a web of protective fire. But the numbers were overwhelming. Taking multiple hits, damage control reported. Shields, holding at 60%. No hull breaches yet. On the bridge, Chen coordinated the defense with cold precision. Target their capital ships first. Focus fire, one at a time. Make them pay for every meter they advance. The Hippocrates weapons fired in coordinated volleys, each shot precisely calculated. A Krath battleship took the full force of the human ship's arsenal and exploded in a ball of fire. But there were 52 more, and they were getting closer. In the medical bay, the ship shook from impacts. Lights flickered. Dr. Webb steadied himself against an operating table, continuing his work on a patient who needed emergency surgery. The Velic's vital signs remained stable despite the chaos around them. "We are taking heavy fire," a nurse reported. "Shields are down to 40%. Then we have plenty of shield left." Webb replied, making a careful incision. "Suction here. I need better visibility." Another impact, stronger this time. The lights went out completely for 5 seconds before emergency power kicked in. Red emergency lighting bathed the medical bay in an eerie glow. Several pieces of equipment sparked and died. Medical staff scrambled to switch patients to backup systems. Shields at 20%. The bridge reported over communications. "We cannot take much more of this." Captain Rodriguez's voice came through, strained. "The Nightingale has lost main power. We are on emergency systems. Still operational, but barely." The Asclepius was taking concentrated fire from 5 Krath ships at once. "Multiple hull breaches," Captain Okonkwo reported. "Sealing affected sections. We are still in the fight." Velktarn watched from the bridge observation area, helpless. His people were dying to save his people. The humans fought with skill and determination, but there were simply too many enemies. 3 human ships, all battered and failing, stood between the Krath fleet and the genocide of his species. Then something changed on the sensors. "Admiral," the tactical officer said, confusion in her voice. "We are detecting new FTL signatures. Multiple contacts emerging from hyperspace. Not Krath signatures. Unknown configuration." On the main display, ships began appearing. First 5, then 10, then 20. They emerged from FTL in a coordinated formation. And they were not Krath vessels. Their hulls bore the markings of a dozen different species. Galactic Defense Force insignia. Medical Relief Council symbols. Even some independent merchant vessels that had been hastily armed. "Incoming communication," the communications officer reported. "Multiple channels, multiple languages. They are hailing us." The main screen split into dozens of smaller windows. Faces of different species appeared. Some familiar, many not. But they all wore expressions of determination. One of them, a Galactic Defense Force commander from a species called the Thelians, spoke first. "Human Fleet Hippocrates, this is Commander Thelvar of the Coalition Relief Force. We received your distress call. We are here to assist." Chen stared at the display in disbelief. "Commander, you are entering an active combat zone. We cannot guarantee your safety." Another face appeared. A doctor from the Medical Relief Council who had voted against helping the Velik weeks ago. She looked ashamed, but determined. "Admiral Chen, we were wrong. We should have come when first asked. We are here now. We will help you finish this." More ships continued to arrive. The coalition fleet grew to 30 vessels, then 40, then 50. Species that had condemned Earth's actions at Garan 4 now came to fight alongside the human medical fleet. Species that had never worked together before flew in formation, united by a single purpose. "Why?" Chen asked, her voice cracking slightly with emotion. "Why did you come?" Commander Thelvar's expression was solemn. "Because you taught us something. Admiral, you showed us that medical neutrality does not mean standing by while people die. It means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. You refuse to abandon your patients, even when facing certain death. That kind of dedication, that kind of honor, it shamed us. We had to do better." The Krath fleet hesitated, their advance faltering as they reassessed the new situation. They now faced a combined fleet of nearly 60 vessels. The numbers had shifted. "Coalition fleet. This is Admiral Chen. We have patients aboard and ground teams operating on the surface. Our priority is protecting them." "Understood," Thelvar replied. "We will engage the Krath fleet. You focus on your mission. That is what you do best." "The fleet? We have you too." The coalition fleet moved forward, weapons powering up. What followed was the largest space battle in the sector in decades. The Krath fleet, caught between the battered human ships and the fresh coalition forces, found itself outmatched. They fought hard, but the coalition had the advantage of numbers and surprise. The battle lasted 3 hours. The Krath fought desperately, knowing this was their last chance to complete the genocide they had started. But ship by ship, they were destroyed or forced to retreat. When the last Krath vessel jumped to FTL, fleeing the system, the coalition fleet held the field. The human ships were barely functional. The Hippocrates had hull breaches on 6 decks, its shields completely gone, and emergency power running most systems. The Nightingale was listing in orbit, held steady only by thruster control. The Asclepius had taken so much damage, it would need to be towed back to Earth for repairs. But they had held. Every single patient aboard survived. The ground teams were safe. The medical mission continued. Dr. Webb stood in the damaged medical bay, surrounded by his staff and their Velic patients. Young Velk Lin tugged at his coat, looking up at him with large eyes. "Are the bad ships gone?" she asked in her own language, translated by her medical monitor. "Yes, little one," Webb said, kneeling down to her level. "They are gone. You are safe now. Everyone is safe." On the bridge, Admiral Chen accepted congratulations from the coalition commanders, but her attention was on the display showing the Velic homeworld below, where billions of people were recovering from a plague that had nearly destroyed them. "Admiral Chen," Commander Thelvar said, "the Galactic Council wishes to speak with you. They want to discuss new protocols for medical emergency response. Your methods, your integration of defensive capabilities with medical missions, they want to adopt similar approaches. They want to arm their hospital ships," Chen translated. "They want to ensure medical personnel can defend themselves and their patients. You proved it was possible. You proved it was necessary." In the weeks that followed, the Velic plague was completely cured. The mortality rate ended at 6%. A miracle, considering it had been projected at 99%. The human medical fleet, battered but operational, prepared to depart for Earth and much-needed repairs. The Galactic Medical Relief Council issued a formal apology to the Velic and to Earth. They began redesigning their fleet based on human principles, integrating defensive capabilities while maintaining their primary medical mission. Several species requested human advisors to help train their medical personnel in combat zone operations. The Krath Dominion, their bioweapon program exposed and destroyed, faced sanctions from dozens of species. Their border territories were placed under coalition monitoring. The threat of biological warfare had been neutralized, and it had cost them everything. On the last day before departure, Velk Tarn came to the Hippocrates one final time. He found Admiral Chen and Dr. Webb in the restored medical bay, watching the staff pack up equipment. "I wanted to thank you," the ambassador said. "Not just for saving my people, for showing us what true medical aid looks like." "We just did our job," Webb replied. "No. You did more than that." Velk Tarn gestured to the ship around them. "We thought medical aid and military power were opposites, that healers and warriors could not coexist. You proved us wrong. You did not bring warships instead of medical aid. You brought medical aid that refuses to die, medical aid that fights back, medical aid that protects its patients no matter the cost." Chen smiled slightly. "Every human doctor takes an oath. It is called the Hippocratic Oath. The most famous line is, 'First, do no harm.' But that is not the only line. We also swear to protect and preserve life, to teach others, to share knowledge freely." Somewhere along the way, humanity added something else to that oath, something unofficial, but just as important. "What is that?" Velk Tarn asked. "We swear to let no harm come to those in our care," Webb said. "Not just to avoid causing harm ourselves, but to actively prevent harm from others. That requires strength. It requires weapons sometimes. It requires being willing to fight when fighting is the only way to protect life." "That is a dangerous philosophy," Velk Tarn observed. Yes, Chen agreed. But so is standing by and watching people die when you could have saved them. We chose the dangerous path that saves lives over the safe path that costs them. The galaxy is welcome to judge that choice. The Velic ambassador looked at these humans who had saved his species, these strange warriors who carried scalpels and guns with equal skill, who built hospitals inside warships and saw no contradiction in it. The galaxy will judge you, he said quietly, and I think history will show you were right. The human fleet departed the Velic homeworld 3 days later. As they prepared for the jump to FTL, Chen stood on the bridge, looking at the planet below. Billions of Velic, alive and recovering, went about their lives. Children played. Families reunited. Doctors returned to their homes. Exhausted, but victorious. All ships report ready for jump, the tactical officer reported. Then let us go home, Chen said. We have another crisis waiting somewhere. There are always more people who need help. The 3 battered warships jumped to FTL, carrying with them the wounded, the tired, and the vindicated. They had proven something important to the galaxy. Medical neutrality did not mean passivity. Healing did not mean helplessness. And sometimes, the best way to save lives was to be willing to fight for them. In his final report to Earth Command, Dr. Webb wrote a single line that would be quoted in medical schools across human space for generations. We came to heal, and we did. That some had to die to allow that healing to happen does not make us warriors instead of doctors. It makes us doctors who understand that protecting life sometimes requires taking it. The Hippocratic Oath commands us to do no harm. We have simply added, and, to allow no harm to those we have sworn to protect. That is not a contradiction. That is completion. The human medical fleet arrived home to a hero's welcome. Though the crews deflected the praise, they were already preparing for the next crisis, the next plague, the next disaster, where people needed help. Because that was what they did. They were healers who refused to watch their patients die. They were warriors who fought for life instead of death. They were human. And they had taught the galaxy what that really meant. In the years that followed, the term human medical doctrine became standard across known space. Hospital ships began carrying defensive weapons. Medical personnel received combat training. Emergency response fleets integrated military and medical operations. The galaxy learned that healing and fighting were not opposites, but partners. 2 sides of the same mission, to preserve life. And at the center of it all, the lesson the Velic had learned and shared with others. When humans promise medical aid, they mean it. They will heal you, protect you, and fight for you. They will face overwhelming odds and refuse to retreat. They will turn hospital ships into fortresses and doctors into defenders. Because to humans, the oath to preserve life was not just words. It was a promise written in shield generators and surgical suites, in weapons, fire, and medication, in the absolute refusal to abandon those who needed help. They expected medical aid. They got human warships instead. And in the end, they got exactly what they needed. Healers who would not let them die. Warriors who fought for life. Humans who understood that sometimes the greatest act of healing is refusing to let anyone stop you from doing it.